All right, so you opened up your turtles last night,
I
right?
did. I
And what do you
fucking
think?
fucking hate them.
Oh,
No, those are
that
like
makes me sad.
easily the best Ninja Turtles that I've ever owned. Like I'm not like crazy into Ninja Turtles. I liked them as a kid. Had a few of the characters from probably the first 2 years, and then kind of tapered off. And I know it's been brought back time and time again, and I never really got into all of the lines, but I'd have to say, like, I can't imagine any of the other lines from what was like 2003 or so on.
Yeah, and then the movie.
I
Yeah.
can't imagine. Yeah, those are the TMNT movie. I can't imagine those being even nearly as good as these. These are so incredible. I'm just shocked with how much articulation they got out of such small little guys. Like I wasn't expecting them to be so small, but then I saw some comparison images with the originals, and apparently the originals were just as small as well. So it was really kind of shocked to see what kind of poses I could get out of those little guys. It's fucking great. I was fiddling with. I never like pose my figures too much. I usually just take them out, like mess around with them and put them on a shelf. But I fiddled with them for
Same.
like 2 hours. Like I just was having a blast.
Yeah, my turtles are still on my desk. I keep messing with them. But like calling them small is kind of a disservice because like people are calling them 3 3/4 inch figures. Like you look at them, they're a lot bulkier than a 3 3/4 inch figure. Like I was surprised how much mass there was to them.
Oh yeah, I mean that's. I guess yeah. I mean you have a good point. I guess I was a little surprised at the height, and I know that sounds really kind of like nitpicky, and that's not at all a complaint. But just to see like, wow, I'm used to kind of like deluxe size figures or Voyagers, talking about like
Yeah.
Transformers. But the actually funny sidebar on that is I seen somebody bought like some of the new
Fall Cybertron.
was it War for Cybertron, right? Those
Fall,
deluxes
fall, fall.
or Fall of Cybertron, and they're like the same height. And I was like, wow, okay, so
Yeah.
so
Yeah, and they're $15 instead of $8.99. So there you
oh
go.
yeah, and there you go. The price on these shocked me too. I was like, wow, like these are cheaper in some stores than a GI Joe figure.
Yep. Well, and the thing about the size too is like the human figures are actually bigger. They're more in line with like a 6 inch figure, whereas the turtles, like in the animation, were always tinier than them. So it's also a scale thing, which I think is really cool because each of the turtles is a different height, and then the humans are larger. So I don't mind the size at all. Plus vehicles. I mean, the bigger you get, the more cumbersome a vehicle is going to be.
So I guess how did you come across yours? Because for mine, I had to use that whole UPC or DPCI finder through the Target website to find what store had them. And then when we went there, they weren't on the shelf. So I had my wife kind of say, "Hey, can you get this thing out of the back for me? Because if I ever go do it, they're like, no, fuck this guy. He's a collector douchebag." But when my wife asked, they never they never questioned that. So I'm like, "Hey, can you go get this out of the back and get me all four
My
turtles?"
kid needs this. Actually, the Jack Sack found them for me. He found the four turtles, Splinter and Shredder for me. He called one day and was like, "Hey, look what I found!" So, because I had no luck finding anything, I don't normally ask people in stores though. And then the other day, I guess I just started seeing the displays. I was dropping someone off at the airport, and I came back and I went to one of the city stores, and I got the Shellraiser and Krang there. And then my local Toys R Us had the displays up, but they're already picked clean. So I guess they're starting to hit like at least my shelves.
What are the prices in comparison at Toys? Because I know Toys R Us lately has been a little higher than Target or Walmart. So is that hold true with turtles or like?
I think they're no, well, at least on the turtles, they're all the same price, $8.99 across
Oh,
Target, Walmart, Toys R Us. But the vehicles I think are slightly
how much
more.
was the Shellraiser?
At the one in the Bronx, it was like $40, but that's because it's the city. I think it's 35
Wow,
retail.
that is
normal.
okay. So you were really big into the original Turtles, right? Had a crap ton when you were a kid.
I mean, yeah, I was a kid at the right age, and so like when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles got big, I was like, the proper age, saw everything, was always like going to the store and getting them. I mean, I still have tons of figures.
Did
from when I
you
was a
or
kid.
do you still have the party van, that the original Turtle wagon or party wagon, whatever it was called?
Yeah, with the flip up top and everything. Yep, I have that. I have a Technodrome. I have a blimp and like a pizza thrower and the little drill pod.
How would you compare the Shellraiser to that original party van?
Well, when I got it, it's actually all in pieces, and you have to build it and put stickers on it, just like kind of the original original van, which was kind of cool. I really liked putting it together. It was a good nostalgia kick. I'd say it's, I mean, I haven't looked at my old turtle van in forever. It's down in storage, but I'd say it's pretty close to the same like scale. There's a lot of play features on this one. All I really remember about the old van from when I was a kid was the top would flip up and you had stuff inside, and like I guess the doors flipped open on the side for the guns. But I'd say this one is a good modern update to the design. I dig the way it looks, and it's got, you know, it's got a firing missile cannon on the top. It's got some flip open doors. It's got a door that springs open and the guy spirals out. So I think for kids it's cool, and for collectors I think it looks pretty good.
So you think it's a must buy?
Well, for me, I like it. If anything, I wanted the 4 turtles in the van just to have it there, just as a cool little display. I think it's worth it personally, but mileage may vary on how you feel about vehicles. I won't be getting like all the tertiary vehicles. I don't think, like motorcycles and stuff like that, I can pass on. But the van, I think, is a key element to the turtles.
When I was a kid, I always really wanted the van, and I always really wanted the blimp, but I never got either of them. So I'm contemplating picking up the Shellraiser just because, you know, to fill that void of not having the party van.
The old blimp was garbage. It always popped, and here's my it always popped and was always messed up.
It just looked impressive, though. It was like an impressive size from what I remember, like in the little toy catalogs of the kids, and I was like, wow, that would be so cool, you know. But yeah, I think I would have been happy with a party wagon or party van. I'm gonna keep calling it either or, so you know, whichever one's incorrect, I apologize, but I always wanted that when I was a kid, never got it, and I remember that kind of was a bit of an impressive size too. So I'm contemplating again the Shellraiser to kind of fill that void. And this is sadly the first time I have ever owned all 4 turtles. I grew up a big Donatello fan. I don't remember if that was started off because he was my first one, or if it was because, you know, he's kind of like the nerdy guy, and I always liked using him in the video games because he had the long reach with the bow staff. But I remember
he was overpowered in the old Nintendo game. That bow staff was so much better than anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, so he was just, I always just kind of liked this guy for multiple reasons. And so I think when I was a kid, I just had him and Michelangelo, and that's it. And so whenever, you know, a new series of turtles would come out, I would just usually pick up the Donatello. But I figured, you know what, this time I'm going to do it right. I'm going to get all 4, and I'm so glad I did. And they all, I mean, I already said they all have great posability, but I mean, I have like the sai for Raphael, like he's holding it so the blade comes through his knuckles. Like I could never do that with any other version of Raphael.
You don't have the Nika turtles, I assume, then.
No, I never got those. I contemplate. Is it Nika? Is it Nika or is it NECA or
Nika,
NECA?
NECA. I don't know. Yeah, you can say NECA. You can't be wrong saying that, right?
True.
But those turtles are really good too. They have more posability than these, and you can do all that crazy stuff, but they're a bit fragile. But yeah, they were cool, and they're comic book styled though, so they're all just red.
Yeah, I kind of gather that. Well, I'm actually a little bit surprised that they have more posability because, like all my other Nika figures, I mean, yeah, they have great sculpts and all, but they kind of don't seem to want to pose well, and they seem to kind of tip over really easily. And
agreed. These are like the ones that only have. These are like the only ones I ever had or saw that have like good joints and lots of joints.
Oh, all right, yeah, because I got a lot of like the video game related stuff, and I just stopped buying it because I had this tendency to buy a bunch of shit, and then like it just sits somewhere, and then eventually on a rainy day I'll open it all and play with it. And it was like several months, maybe even years later after I bought some of them, and I'm like, wow, these are all fucking shit. I mean, they're pretty to look at, but I fucking hate playing with them. So I was kind of glad I didn't get the Nika turtles at that point, but I always thought they looked really nice, and I'm glad that I have these now.
Yeah, I mean, these are great. People are saying they wish they had ankle articulation. I don't know if you could really put ankle articulation in the way the sculpt is, though. Like, I really like the body proportions on these turtles, and I wouldn't want posability to really suffer from the way they look. I'm pretty happy with all the joints the way they have them in there, and that they're all unique body types and everything.
They're kind of they're a little stiff at first too, so it's not like they're you know really loosey goosey. In fact, it took me till this morning to realize that they all had knee joints because they weren't really.
They're hidden.
Yeah,
they're really well
hidden really well. And so you know, I opened them last night and I was watching the first movie, and that was just a good time. Just watching the old school movie and playing with the new school toys at the same time, just fantastic. And So I'm playing around with them, and I'm messing with all the different arm swivels and just like posing their weapons in really cool positions. I'm like, yeah, this is badass, and then turn their heads certain ways. I'm like, okay, I can make a neat, cool group shot here. Then this morning I'm eating my cereal and I have them all on the kitchen table, and I'm like looking at Michelangelo saying, holy shit, he's got knee joints too. And I just pushed my cereal to the side and I started reposing him, and now he's like crouched down.
The camera wrote 360 around you.
Oh god, it was fun, man. This is the most fun I've had with some action figures in a long time.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited because I was a big Turtle fan, and it's cool to see that everyone's having a pretty good reaction to them. I mean, now, that said, all the things about the Turtles, having all the posability, the side characters, they're not as posable. I'm still pretty happy with them. They're not as badly pre-posed as some of Playmate's earlier stuff, but like some really suffer, like Krang. But hopefully, like next wave, Playmates puts their budget into like the side characters and makes better bodies for humans and stuff like that. Because I'm fine with them putting a lot of budget into the Turtles for the first wave, as long as they try to redistribute and make better figures overall across the board.
I haven't heard too many good things about Krang, mainly, in regards to the robot body. Do you think he's worth it, just at least for the little, the brain portion?
I mean, I really dig the little brain guy, but it's like an eraser topper, right? It's like this little rubbery Krang thing. I guess it depends on how much you care about Krang. The robot body's not bad if you don't want to like pose it and fiddle around with it. If you get it in the one pose that it's meant to be in, it looks fine on the shelf. But that said, it's not like we saw the animation clips also this weekend from SDCC, and Krang isn't like the Krang of the original cartoon. He's more like the Krangs of the comic book. So they're kind of just like grunt, tons of alien, robots with the Krangs in them, and they're just like like the foot, I guess. So there's just gonna be tons of them. So I can kind of understand why the figure isn't necessarily as nice. Like, you're not like, if you got a Shredder with no posability, you'd be kind of upset, right? So he's just a grunt, like a foot soldier. Maybe there'll be like a leader Krang and we'll get a better body later. I think it depends on how much you care about the character. I mean, I think he was cool for $8.
Does he have the whole does he have any kind of like hole in the bottom? I mean, just to kind of jump off what you were saying about the animation from SDCC, we saw an animation that had him, or had Krang kind of jump onto Michelangelo's head and kind of like suck something and then like leave like this residue. Like, do you think you could do that with this Krang?
You can't. I mean, the Krang is way too tiny for that. It's smaller than the Turtles' heads. But I like ripped the ball joint head off of the Turtles, and you could put it on top of the ball joint, but it looks a little weird because it's so tiny. I was wondering that too. Maybe the human figures would be a little better proportioned for, like maybe April. But as of right now, I'd say you're not really able to do anything like that.
So I wonder if Krang is actually going to be like, well, you bought him, right? So is there anything on his bio on the back? Like, is Krang their term for the Utroms or whatever? However you pronounce
that's what it sounds like. Yep, that's what it sounds like. That he's just he's one of many. That he's not Krang specifically. Like the package says Krang, but it's like the Krang.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, it's like the name for the alien race.
So they're changing the name of the race from, I guess. Well, I probably mispronouncing that too.
In the original comic, weren't they good guys?
What's that?
Weren't they in the original comic? Weren't they good guys?
I mean, I have not read that in a long time. I thought you had read that more recently, haven't you?
I've only read like the first like 3 or 4 issues. They just saw them.
Okay.
It was the last issue I left off on. So I don't know, but I had heard that they're good guys, but I don't know. Either way, I don't mind that he's not like Krang from the original series. I need, I can new changes, modern updates. I'm happy with. I mean, in the SDCC panel we saw, they showed like they had Dimension X is going to be a part of the show, so we're probably going to get some of those Rock Soldier guys and stuff like that. Should be neat.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be a Krang there.
And then we had some of the big name people. I mean, do we want to go through those, like Leatherhead and?
Yeah, they actually showed those figures at Toy Fair, like Leatherhead and is it Metalhead?
Metalhead. Wait, is it Leatherhead?
Yep.
Or is it Leatherneck or?
No,
the big gator dude.
Leatherhead and
I know.
Yeah, I thought it was Leatherhead.
All right.
I don't know. It's been forever, but they showed the crocodile guy. They showed the robotic turtle. They showed Rat King. So they've shown a lot of those figures in one way or another. And then at the SDCC panel, we got to see the animation models or sketches of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, so before we get too far into that, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we can gather from the animation before we start getting into the stuff that we haven't seen yet, or the
Sure.
sneak peek stuff. So my only one problem, and I'll just get it out of the way right now, being a big Donatello fan, don't know why they had to give him a gap tooth.
Oh, I like that.
It's bothering me.
Yeah,
I
it's
know
character.
that I will eventually get to a point where I don't notice it, but it's like sticking out to me like a sore thumb right now. I'm like, why did they give him a gap tooth? And why did it have to be Don? Why couldn't they give it to somebody else, you know? So that's my only problem. Other than that, like, I am absolutely digging the style that they're going with this. It's I guess, for lack of a better term, mixed media that their approach that they're doing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Like a more to I don't know, like a more, it gives the show a lot more character than its predecessors.
Yeah, and I feel like there's not many shows, or any that I can really think of, that kind of match the kind of style that I'm seeing there, where it'll go from like fluid fight animation into comic freezes into kind of like anime influenced facial reactions and like video game noises and all this other stuff. I mean, I was just blown away. The original teaser, I was kind of like, it looked like they had like 3D backgrounds and then they just rendered characters over them moving across them, and the animation didn't look so great. But these teasers have come, or these clips we got to see, completely sold me on the show. I am so excited.
Yeah, it's like even the characterizations that they've chosen to, you know, to do for the turtles, you know, it's pretty much more of the same, but it's kind of like evolved for today. And Michelangelo, he seems like he's always been kind of like that comic relief character, but like, you know, the previous, he's like, oh, he's the party dude, and this one he seems a little more like silly, and
he seems like the more like adolescent of them.
I guess that's a good way of putting it, and I think it really works for that character. It's not all like, hey, cowabunga, dude, but he just, he seems like the youthful,
they're not surfers
of the bunch, you know.
I mean, I know people on Twitter I've seen, and other people were complaining about the Booyashaka thing. I actually kind of like that catchphrase. I think it sounds cool the way they're doing it. And I think Cowabunga had its time in the sun, and it's been, like 20 years, so I'm not too bent out of shape about it, but what do you think?
No, I think that it's just fine doing something new. Like, just to kind of borrow from a franchise that we are both very familiar with Transformers. Like, in that first Transformers live action movie, it was kind of cool to see, you know, hear some of the old Prime lines. But when they keep doing it, like in the third movie, you're like, come on, you know, do something else. Like,
you're pandering. You're pandering.
Like, I don't want to keep hearing like the same shit for, you know, 25 years. It's just like, no, thank you, you know. So, like the first time you do that to me, it's like, all right, I'm gonna like maybe get choked up with nostalgia, but I when you're talking about somebody's catchphrase and you're gonna hear that often, I don't want to hear Cowabunga continuously now in the year 2012. So I'm fine. Do Booyakasha or whatever the hell he was saying.
Yeah, I think it's Booyakasha.
I'm totally fine with that. I have no problem. In fact, you know, if anything, you got a little bit of nostalgia in the theme song that, you know, they have.
Oh, I love that new song. I like that a lot.
I didn't think I would, because, you know, I don't like when they like force hip hop into like into kids cartoons, but it flowed really well, and it you could hear like a bit of the old theme song in there, and so I thought it was a good way to throw a nod back to the past, but give you something new and fresh.
I thought it was way nicer than have you seen the 2003 intro? I don't like that song at all. They did more of a rocky kind of song.
I barely remember it. Like, I watched a little bit of that show, and I watched the important, you know, ending, the Turtles Forever, which was absolutely fantastic, but I don't remember the theme too
still
much.
Have to watch that. Yeah, I'll show you later or something. I'll link it to you. I definitely prefer this, but I guess nostalgia would probably still win over on the original. But I definitely feel like the show is going to be like a labor of love for them after seeing that panel. It seems like they put a lot of thought and energy into it, and they weren't just like, here's another Ninja Turtles cartoon, buy the toys. Like, they thought about the characters, they thought about what's going on, they thought about what's happened in the past 30 years worth of the franchise, and from there they've kind of reinvented and given us all something that like even old Turtle fans can, I think, relate to, because seeing it, like you're saying, the characterizations, like, it feels instantly the way I would want the Turtles to be, and then it looks like there's great action and humor, and the animation is just flawless. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's obviously a labor of love going by that panel. You could see that group of people up there. A lot of them were fans of the original, which blew my mind, and it also blew my mind to see fucking Sean Astin or Aston or whatever, however you pronounce his last name. Like, oh my god, like this guy. I mean, as silly as it might sound, like to me, this guy's a legend. Like I've been watching him since I was a kid. You know, this Goonies, Rudy. I mean, fucking Lord of the Rings. And he's involved with the show. He's doing a voice of Raphael. Hell yes. Like
and doing a good job.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, I didn't need to have anything else to convince me to get more on board with this, and I already got more on board with it. So it's like, I'm blown away.
Michelangelo was the only voice actor out of the Turtles that I had not seen before. I mean, the guy who did the original Raphael coming back. You have Jason Biggs playing Leonardo, and then, like you said, for Donatello, or no, Raphael. I'm sorry. So I mean, there's some good voice talent there, and I think they were talking about their voice coach, which they listed off all these shows that that voice director has done, and I mean. The Batman the Animated Series, like that's the only one you need to say, and I'm sold. But I mean, there was a long list of other cartoons that were great too.
Yeah, and the cast all seems to have a good rapport with each other too. They all seem to have a good relationship, and I think that's going to come through because it sounds like they're not. It almost sounds like they're doing kind of like live recordings. Like they didn't really go into depth with that, but it doesn't sound like people are coming into a sound booth doing their lines and going home because somebody made a reference about somebody came to watch them do, like the head of Viacom or something like that, came to watch them do a recording of their lines or whatever. So it made me believe that there's people there during a session. Oh yeah, because they even said like the guy playing Michelangelo, they would have to stop and they would ruin takes. So they are doing it together. No, it's not like this whole thing that we see in a lot of like previous behind the scenes in like Transformers and stuff where somebody comes into a booth, reads their lines, goes home kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that just kind of ruins it. I think, like, especially when it's something like Ninja Turtles where you got 4 guys that are supposed to be really big comrades, you know, having those 4 guys in the booth playing off of each other is way better than having someone go and read their lines, go and read their lines, go and read their lines, because you just lose something. I mean, and you hear voice actors talk about it at panels and stuff because, like, they get to play off each other with being in there and everything else. I think it just makes a more organic reading or what you're hearing for the show.
Guarantee. And I mean, I might be way off on saying, like, you know, they go into the booth separately at different times. I don't know how they do it. I know that at one point I've heard that happen in a show, and I could have sworn it was... Well,
no, it does happen in shows.
All right, yeah, I just, you know, in case somebody's like, well, no, that's not exactly accurate. Like, I don't want to give the wrong impression. Like, I'm not talking like I know exactly what I'm talking about. I just have kind of a rough, vague idea. And yeah, you could just tell that the relationship with these people is going to come through in the show. And I think that we're all in for a really, really great ride.
So... after I saw the animation, like, I love the way these turtle figures look. Like, I really dig the style, but I feel like these kind of more match, like, the IDW comic than what the animation turtles look like. Like, I kind of want Playmates to go ahead and make another run of turtles and make them look more like that animation style because they're a little bit different proportioned, and the heads are way different. They're not as, like, scuffed up. I mean, they're still, like, detailed and scuffed up, but I really feel like these figures that we have do not match what's on screen. And I know that's kind of been Playmates, like, in the past. They've always, like, you know, the original Turtles really didn't look like what was on the screen in the cartoon. But I really hope they can give us some screen-accurate Turtles, too, because I love the ones we've got, but those character designs, especially seeing after the animation, I would love to have them. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see where you're coming from there. Our own little set of what we have, and if we get anything more than that, I will be pleased as punch. So yeah, I mean, bring me another set of turtles.
Yeah, it's not to say I'm like negative about it.
You know, we have the classics coming out too, which, you know, they have their own little set of issues, in my opinion. But yeah, I think a set of accurate turtles would be beneficial to pretty much everybody. I don't think anybody would complain about that, really.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope that the show goes the distance because it seems like there's enough fan support where there's enough people coming back to Ninja Turtles that would want to watch it, and then that there's enough work that went into the show that makes it really worth watching.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement.
It doesn't seem like anything's been
a lot of
phoned in.
excitement and and a buzz on that whole Twitter machine out there. I mean, you just see like every other tweet is something like turtle related. I mean, yeah, it is Comic-Con weekend right now. So, but no, there's other people. You know, Trent is talking about turtles a lot, and I think Javier might have mentioned something, or I might be mixing people's tweets too. So that could be a problem. But I think I've seen several of our friends talking turtles, so it's kind of cool to see that we're all abuzz about this, and hopefully not just our little group of collectors, but hopefully a lot of other people get those same kind of feelings that we are.
Yeah, I mean, this show, and kind of taking it back to Transformers, kind of really gives me the vibe of Transformers Animated. Like, the idea that someone that was really into the franchise is now in charge of trying to make it work and be something new for the next generation. I don't know. I mean, that's definitely the way I see it. I definitely think it contrasts to that.
Yeah, in fact, something I was going to mention is that, so we have like this line of toys, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Classics, which is classic in the sense of this is supposed to be like the classic animation. But if you look at what we had in the Transformers community with the Transformers Classics, when those came out, those were basically, hey, let's take these old toys and update them now. That's what I see as this set of 4 turtles we have right now, the Nickelodeon turtles. Those, to me, are Ninja Turtle Classics in the same essence that first wave of Transformers Classics was. It's like, these are the toys that I would have wanted, back in 89, 88.
Yeah, I can agree with you there.
So that's what I'm seeing as my classics. And, if you want to look at the show as animated, I could totally see that too. I will go on to say that it has a benefit that animated did not have, in fact, and the fact that it's on Nickelodeon and not on Cartoon Network. And so...
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for that because, I mean, I don't watch a lot of Nick shows, but I hear that they really support their stuff and they don't just cut it short.
I think it will have a chance to even if it has some struggles like midway through, I think it will still have a chance to live on. And it's sad to say that I don't feel that same way about stuff that comes out of Cartoon Network, unfortunately. So I think this has a better chance to survive than Thundercats did. I don't even know if Thundercats is officially dead or if it's still up in the air, but I mean, I would hate to see something like this that had obviously this much love go into it and this much support behind it right now end up where Thundercats is now, so that
exactly. And I feel I was gonna say I feel like Playmates kind of took what Bandai was doing in the figure line and kind of mimicked it almost. You have the new animation figures that came out in like a basic size, just like Bandai kind of did. And then they were doing like a collector line of figures of the retro designs, which Playmates is doing now too. So I think it's a good marketing model for collectors because you're hitting them on both fronts. I just hope, like you're saying, they just get the support they need to continue a line as opposed to just kind of fall flat.
So what? I guess talk about like the shit that's like the stuff that they showed us that's yet to come, like Metalhead and Rat King and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, like they've shown between Toy Fair and that SDCC panel, we've seen a lot of like the retro characters with their modern updates and everything like that, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of mutants in this show. Like from the opening theme, you get to see like that giant cat mutant, which almost reminded me kind of like a crazy Razor. Was it Razor? Yeah. Tokar and Razor? Which one was the cat or the wolf or whatever?
I don't think I ever even knew.
All right. Well, yeah, the guy from Ninja Turtles 2, the movie, Secret of the Ooze or whatever, the feline. It kind of reminds me of that, but who knows what he's supposed to be? I haven't seen the name. We saw Rat King, which is a really drastic change from what I remember him as, at least. I always remember him kind of looking like a hobo with wraps all around him, right?
Yeah, and the interesting thing with that is, so 9 times out of 10, when you do such a drastic change like that, the fan community does not really appreciate that. They don't like it. And what was interesting is, like, I saw it, and I was like, I don't like that at all. But hearing them explain why, they changed that or why they made him look this way, I was like, okay, I can see that. That I understand where you're coming from now. And it's not like if Rat King, if you look at the show, Rat King doesn't look like old school Rat King. He looks like this new Rat King we're getting. No explanation. It's not like I would have been like, well, fuck this show, I'm not watching.
Well, I mean, I never cared about Rat King.
I'm not getting that extreme, but I thought it was kind of interesting to hear, like, yeah, they said, like, what the dude lives in the sewers, and, the old Rat King looked really beefy, and how would you be beefy, live in the sewer? And so, like, they made him this more, like, kind of, like, skeletal-looking, like, husk of a man, and he gave him just a really interesting, kind of mysterious quality, what they say, almost Shakespearean, like, Phantom of the Opera, and I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, and they also said he was going to be, like, a sympathetic villain, which also kind of sold me. I always like when you make more ambiguous bad guys where they're doing something wrong, but maybe for the right reason or something like that. So kind of like Mr. Freeze in Batman the Animated Series, right? He was always kind of like borderlining where you're like could sympathize with him, but he just crosses the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of the Mr. Freeze character. That's a good part of his character in any iteration is that you're sympathetic to, you see where he's coming from, but he's just not going about what he needs to do the right way. And so, yeah, if Rat King is similar, yeah, that'll give an interesting dynamic, because I don't think the original series really had anybody like that. So that already shows that this is going to be a bit deeper than any other previous iteration of Turtles.
Yeah, I hope it's not like an episodic show where it's just, flavor of the week every episode. I do like, yeah, I love story arcs, and I mean, hopefully with the way they're talking about characters, it'll be a main focus. And I know a lot of shows have gone the way of just doing episodic, but I love character development, and I'd like to see everything grow. I mean, were there any designs you saw at the panel or in the toy fair and stuff that you were really excited to see or blown away by?
I'm very happy about Metalhead. It was interesting to see the design that they had in the panel. I can't remember how it compared to what we saw at Toy Fair, but my only moment about that was they kind of gave him jagged teeth, which the original didn't have, so it kind of makes the robot form look a little more aggressive, which was a little odd to me, but I don't know how they're working that in the story. It could work, and I don't hate that. I just thought it was an interesting take, and I really hope it gets made into a toy, because that was like my memories of Turtles.
Well, they showed a great photo of it.
Okay, great. Well, then that takes care of that, because my memories of Turtles as a kid, it was kind of becoming a really big thing as I was kind of transitioning on to, more into my video games and shit like that. So I was only with it for like 2 or 3 years at the beginning. And Metalhead, I believe, was in the second wave of figures in '89. And that was one of my favorite Ninja Turtle toys of all time. So yes, I would love either a modern version, which apparently they're doing, or give us one in the Classics line again. I don't know how far they're going down with the Classics line other than the 4 Turtles, but yeah, I would love that. And one thing we did not see yet, at least I don't know I cannot remember what we saw at Toy Fair, so I'm just going to put that out there right now, but I would love to see a Casey Jones.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if we've seen him either. I would like to see their modern, updated Casey Jones, see their take on it, especially with the way they've done everything. I don't know if I'd want him to be a teenager like April. I'd kind of like, like a 20-something kind of gruff and tumble Casey Jones, but
yeah, I do not want a teenage Casey Jones. I would love to see a Casey Jones done right. I more close to the original, as lame as that sounds, that I want something new, yet I want it to be the same thing. You can't have it both ways, but I don't want a teenage Casey Jones, but he was also like one of my favorite ancillary characters in the original incarnation. So I would love to see Casey Jones in some form or fashion.
Yeah, and I always thought he played a good relationship with Raphael. I mean, even in the movies, kind of, they're different sides to the coin, the same coin.
Yeah. And Slash, you need a Slash. He was pretty neat.
Yeah, he was cool. I don't know if we've seen him. There were a couple of designs at Toy Fair that I'd seen that looked completely original, like a guy in like a robot suit that looked like it elongated and everything. I don't know if that was a Krang in there. But I definitely like the art style. I'm definitely excited to see what happens. And I believe that Metalhead design, I thought I heard somewhere that Derek J. Wyatt drew it. So that might be another reason why to get excited over it. But for the classic stuff, I kind of hope they make more figures if it sells well. But I feel like, because those turtles are almost like 7 inches tall. if they were going to make other figures in that line, at least in proper scale, humans would need to be, like 8 or 9 inches tall. I don't know if they're really planning on doing anything else.
That's a good point. I mean, I totally was not expecting those to be so large. I saw a picture of one today standing next to like a Voyager-sized figure from Transformers. I said, holy shit, these are tall. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. If the turtles are supposed to be a little shorter than other characters, then yeah, it might be hard to swing a Casey Jones or any of the human characters.
I would take one out of scale if that was the only way I was going to get it, though.
Yeah.
But I mean, and again, you're saying like that compared to a Voyager, and they're only $15.99. So I think Playmates is doing a pretty good job at price points compared to other companies that are putting out, a Marvel Universe figure is the same as these basic Nicktoons turtles.
Yeah, when you say that, it makes me
buck.
not even want to touch that other shit anymore. It's ridiculous. Like, yeah, I've got plenty of Marvel U's and G.I. Joe figures, and I'm always going to love my G.I. Joes, and I'm always going to be a collector of that line, but when I see that I'm kind of getting a little more, in my opinion, with the turtles than I am with the G.I. Joes. Sure, the G.I. Joe has a shit ton of, accessories and, maybe a little bit more detail.
Those turtles have a fair amount. The turtles do have a fair amount. Those weapon sprues are pretty plentiful.
That's actually true. I completely forgot about those because just like when I was a kid, I would just put the weapon sprues to the side and I just give them their main weapons. But yeah, that's a good point. They do have plenty of accessories as well. So yeah, I think you get way more for your money when you buy a Ninja Turtle than you do a G.I. Joe or a Marvel U. Hell, the Marvel U's don't even come with stands anymore.
Yep. Yeah, and those new classic turtles, they come with like a little collector sewer plate that has their name on it. There's a stand. Those are the same price as the Fall Cybertron Deluxe right now. I mean, granted, a Transformer has to be engineered to transform, but I don't see it.
Take a look at something like, the Thundercats classics or even like the Masters of the Universe classics. Those are like, $22 right now, Masters of the Universe. They're not even the same height.
Masters of the Universe, I don't know about, but I think the Thundercats classics toys they're about the same scale, and I think they do price for around the same, depending on where you go to buy them. I think I could be wrong though.
No, I think Playmates has the edge. I think they're doing a lot right now, and they just need to keep that up, and they have to keep the prices, where they're at right now,
competitive.
And I think this could go for a while. It could be pretty successful, and it'd be a good time for everybody.
Yeah, I hope the collectors don't. I know a lot of people don't like the kind of joints that are going into a lot of the other figures that aren't the turtles, but I hope collectors don't just shrug off the line after seeing some of these figures and give it a little chance at least, because even though like Shredder doesn't have knee joints, I still think he's a pretty good figure and I love his design. So I still think like Shredder and Splinter are definitely worth picking up. I'll have a Foot Soldier in a couple of days. I'll let people know what I think about that, but even though they're not as nice as the turtles, I'd still say they're definitely great to go alongside everything else if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, if I would have known that I was going to like these so much, I would have had my wife pick up more out of that case, because it was a brand new case, so everything was in there. But I was like, no, just get the 4 turtles. And then the dude brought it back to the storeroom. So had that box been worked out, I could have went back the next day and picked up like Foot Soldier or Shredder or anything like that. But instead, they're still sitting back there. So, it might get to the point where we have them go back and get it again. And I'll pick up Shredder and a Foot Soldier, because I definitely, like, now after playing with these guys, I absolutely want to get Shredder and at least a Foot Soldier. Well,
ToysRUs.com, you can order them for $8.99, and there's free shipping over $75 if you order enough. But you can order individual ones. They're the only place that I've seen where you can order a Foot Soldier or April. Everything else has been
I like
cases.
The hunt, and I know these things are going to be plentiful, in the days to come. So, I mean, I can wait, but I just, I like going to try and find them in the store if I can. In fact, my wife should be getting off work here shortly, and when my daughter wakes up, we might actually run over to Toys R Us and take a look around and see if I see any turtles. And who knows, I might come home with a Shell Razor. I don't know.
Yeah. Is there anything, I guess, like on a wish list? I guess the blimp was one thing you said, or what you said you liked as a kid. Is there anything you'd want to see get made now? That's like a wish.
Like done in the new style or like a classics type of style?
One of each, sure, whatever.
Well, I've already gone on record with Metalhead and Casey Jones, so I guess those don't really count. Yeah. As unlikely as, well, it might be likely. I don't know. Like, I was really surprised to see like that scale of the sewer playset when they showed that at Toy Fair. So I wouldn't mind seeing a Technodrome. I never got the Technodrome.
Yeah.
So
I would agree with that.
I mean, I don't even know if they're going to work that into this new series or not, but I think a Technodrome would be pretty darn cool. And let's see, classics-wise... I mean, yeah, my main thing is a classics metalhead, but I guess maybe a classic Slash. Usagi Yojimbo, I don't know.
I was hoping that, like, in classics, I tweeted this, we could get, like, a Build-A-Figure Krang body. Like the old school large one.
I wasn't even thinking that. That would have been great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Like, good, like, 15-inch tall Krang.
Okay. Yeah. I'm on board with that, absolutely. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. So, who's your favorite turtle figure? I guess we'll try to close this up because you got to go soon, right?
Out of the four, wow, that's tough because I should say Donatello because he's my favorite, but I think I'm kind of liking Raphael at the moment. I like being able to slip the side between his knuckles. It just feels like a different play style I never experienced before. I like how he's got a little bit of like damage to like the underbelly of his shell, so it's it shows like he's kind of gruff and had maybe he sees a little more action than the other three. Yeah, it might go with Raph, either Raph or Don. How about yours?
Well, Raphael is my favorite turtle, but I actually really like the Donatello figure. The colors that they chose from, that really pale flesh, and the head sculpt. I don't know. There's something about him that my eye always gets drawn to him, and he's the tallest. I think it's probably Donatello with Raphael in a close second because I just love that.
Mine probably go back and forth between those two as well. So those are obviously the two best in our eyes.
But I mean, I love that Michelangelo is really tiny. I love the fact that these turtles are not 4 of the same mold with different turtle heads on top, or even the 4 same molds and then just give them different weapons and paint them differently. They actually put effort into this. And
yeah, I agree. I was like actually kind of surprised when I opened them up. I was like, oh, they're all a little bit different. This is kind of cool, but when we were kids, I don't remember. It was just like you had like just different colored headbands and different like letters on their belts, and that was pretty much it from what I remember. But you're talking 20 some odd years, so
yeah, I'm not too familiar with the older figures anymore. I think they might have been slightly posed different and stuff, but yeah, I couldn't speak.
Yeah, I have no vintage shit, so I can't even compare the two figures. What any comparisons I made were off of pictures I seen online, so. I'm actually hoping, like, at TFCon, I guess, like, the Sunday becomes some 80s Toy Expo. I'm hoping to pick up some vintage turtle stuff there to kind of, fill in my collection a little bit here and kind of just get back full swing into Ninja Turtle Dumb. Ninja Turtle Dumb? Yeah, we'll go with that. Ninja Turtle Dumb.
Ninja Turtle
Idge. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I definitely... I hope it takes the fandom by storm or something.
I think there's a good chance. The only X factor could be if that horrible sounding movie actually happens the way it's supposed to happen. I don't know what of a negative impact that'll have on the fandom.
No, yeah, if they have to take the cartoon off the air to match the movie and stuff like that.
So let's enjoy this and support it as much as we can while we have it.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I actually made the effort to get the entire first wave, even though normally I'd probably pass on someone like April, but I'd like to support the first wave of figures so that they see there's people out there that want to get these, and hopefully that means it'll continue the line with a little more longevity.
I agree, wholeheartedly.
All right, well, this has run on for quite a bit of us gushing. Is there anything else you'd like to get out there? Or
Mousers, I forgot about Mousers.
Oh, yeah, Baxter and Mousers would be very cool.
Yes, and maybe a new Bebop and Rocksteady. I mean, you got to get those guys in there somehow, some way.
I'm sure. I mean, it seems like these guys definitely have all these characters in their heart somewhere. So I'm sure at least something like Baxter was really big in the comic and the show. Bebop and Rocksteady were really big and popular in the show. So I mean, I see at least somewhere or another, even if they're cameos, we'll see them, and then maybe they'll get figures depending on how big this line gets.
Yep, that's all my thoughts. I know everything's a little disjointed because I mean we've been kind of just hit with a barrage of like Ninja Turtle stuff in the last like 3 or 4 days. I mean, I first got my figures on Thursday or Wednesday. I didn't open them till like last night, and then everything coming in from Comic-Con, and so it's just been like a kind of like just mass influx of Ninja Turtle. So it's kind of hard to process and organize my thoughts, but I think I've done the best I think.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with you, and I'm kind of surprised how excited I've gotten over this. Like, you know, I was really into Turtles as a kid, like I said, and then like I didn't even really know about the 2003 series, and when the 2007 movie, or 2006, whatever it was, the TMNT movie came out, I was really excited and I went to see it, but I wasn't really buying toys then as much, so I didn't even really think about it. And then now that this is hitting while I'm into this kind of, you know, I'm more of a collector now, I'm surprised that it's taken me, you know, I'm that excited about it, I guess. It's definitely like at the forefront of everything that I want to see. Like, the only flaw I see with the show right now is that it's not airing yet.
that's
I have to wait 2 months or whatever it is.
That's a pretty good flaw to have.
And you know, I think, again, back to Transformers, Hasbro should be following what Playmates is doing, and Nick. I mean, we're getting toys out before a show so that when the show hits, people can just go to the shelves and buy whatever they want, as opposed to waiting 6 months after a show airs.
Plus, you generate interest for the show, man. I mean, you get people, hey, this is cool. Oh, what, Nickelodeon? There's a new show coming? You know, you put that information on the package, like,
it's advertising.
On this date, and you just go and, you know, when you're ready for when the show starts.
Yep. I'm hoping that New York Comic Con, because it's right after the show premieres, will be very big for Ninja Turtles, so
hopefully
you get front row seats for whatever that's going to be. Yeah, but yeah, I guess thanks for listening to us, and thank you for sitting with me.
Of course,
Mr.
I'm glad that we were able to find time to get together and synergize. Turtle size.
Yeah.
Booyakasha.